Go anytime you want.
The Inner Voice Show is a dialogue between the host and the listeners about their relationships. This show is not an attempt to assess, diagnose, or treat any mental health or illness condition. Please consult your physician, psychiatrist, or psychotherapist for personal matters.
Inner Voice, a heartfelt chat with Dr. Foojan.
Hello, everyone. Happy holidays. Welcome to the Inner Voice Show. I'm Dr. Foojan Zeine and have Sean in studio. This is a show about what matters most in life. Our minds, our thoughts, our feelings, actions, relationships, and our fulfillment in this beautiful journey of life. In this show, I'll bring you the latest research about having close friends with positive relationships, boosting our self-esteem. And then I'll speak to Dr. Nasser Salehinia, a cognitive neuroscience scholar and educator, and the author of You Lead You and Leadership Intelligence. Be sure to listen to my podcast on iTunes and Stitcher. Share it with your friends. Give me some good ratings and call me or email me and let me know what it is that you want to talk about in the year of 2020. And we're excited to be beginning a whole new year. We'll be right back with the tip of the week. So here's the tip of the week. We're going to be nearing the new year. Most of us, what we do is look at what was going on the last year. What did we do? What did we create? Did we create everything that we said we were going to? Were there areas in our life that we said, we just didn't do well in? Or we didn't do it as well as we expected? Or we set it up and said we were really going to do, but we procrastinated and have lots and lots of justifications about why we didn't do what we do. Well, we all do that, right? Well, this is a new chance. What I usually do is either in the winter solstice, which is last week, or actually on the New Year Eve. I'll sit down and write all the things that I intend to create for the next year, right? So for the year 2020. And I will go through every single area of my life, such as I'll go with my health, my body, and put in what it is that I want to create. So I want to create a healthy body. So I'm going to create a certain weight that I want to be, and the food that I want to eat, exercise that I want to do, and the action plan on all of that. And then after that, I'll go into my intimate relationship with my husband. So I'll write everything that I want to create in that relationship and how I'm going to create it. Maybe, have date nights together. Maybe there are particular trips we want to go together. So write all of that in. And then in my career, and I'll write everything that I want to do with the awareness integration model, completing my book on the awareness integration model and for the therapist. And I'm actually writing 3 books at this time. So completing all 3, hopefully this year. And then being able to present and create a module for the therapist to learn what I do, and then with the radio show with all of you, to have more of you and your friends and your colleagues to be listening to the show and to the podcast and giving me feedback in how to create the show the way exactly that you want to. And then I'll go to relationship with my friends and my family and systematically create every single area that I want, finances, put in exactly what I want. And you know what I do? I write them exactly the way I want them. Then I put them together and I put them aside. Every action plan is going to be put in my calendar so that you don't forget. It's not just one evening, I thought about all of this and then, hey, forget it. I put them all in the action plan. So in my calendar, it's set up. When is it every week that I need to do things? When is it that I need to do the exercise? Where are the times and places that I need to see my friends? I'll put all of that. And I really suggest to you, I've been doing that for many years, And you know what is interesting is that at the end of the year, when I go back and look at exactly how many of this have I created, I can tell you most of the years I created up to 80 to 90% of what I said I intended to create. And the key was not just to say I do it. The key was actually to putting it on my calendar and doing what I said I would do in the calendar. So take that on. I promise you, you'll have good results. We'll be right back with the latest research. Hello, I'm Dr. Foojan, and I have great news for you. I'm offering a special time-limited offer to anyone who's interested in online therapy or coaching sessions. I've developed the awareness integration model, which allows in only 12 weeks to raise your self-esteem and confidence and let go of your thoughts and emotions that produce depression and anxiety for you. So call today to schedule your online session and save $600. Call me today at 818-648-2140. That's 818-648-2140. Or go to www.foojan.com.
Dr. Foojan Zeine is a psychotherapist, a marriage and family therapist, and a life coach with more than 27 years of experience. She is the author of the Awareness Integration Model, which has been researched and published in numerous international journals. Dr. Foojan has offices in Beverly Hills, Irvine, and Woodland Hills, California, and also consults online and by telephone. Make an appointment with her today by calling 818-648-2140 or go online to www.foojan.com. That's www.foojan.com.
Well, welcome back to the Inner Voice Show. So, does having close friends boost your self-esteem, or does having high self-esteem influence the quality of your relationships? The answer is both. You probably knew that already. According to the meta-analysis of more than 2 decades of research done at the University of Texas at Austin and published by the American Psychological Association in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology. For the first time, they have systematic answer to a key question in the field of self-esteem research: whether and to what extent a person's social relationships influence his or her self-esteem development, and vice versa. And at what age? The answer to what age group is across the lifespan. Researchers analyzed 52 studies involving more than 47,000 participants, 54% female, looking at either the effect of self-esteem on social relationships over time or the reverse effect. The studies all published 1992 and up to 2016, include multiple countries such as 30 examples from the United States, 4 from Switzerland, 3 from Germany, 2 each from Australia, Belgium, Canada, Finland, Greece, Russia, and Sweden. Participants were 60% white, 2% Hispanic and Latino, 2% other, predominantly another ethnicity, and 19% mixed ethnicities. Sample range from early childhood to adulthood. The authors found that positive social relationships, social support, and social acceptance help shape the development of self-esteem in people over time across ages 4 to 76. The authors also found a significant effect in the reverse direction. While earlier research had yielded inconsistent findings, the meta-analysis support the classic and contemporary theories of the influence of self-esteem and social connections, and the influence of social connections on self-esteem, according to the author. The findings were the same after accounting for gender and ethnicity. The reciprocal link between self-esteem and social relationships implies that the effects of the positive feedback loop accumulate over time and could be substantial as people go through life. The authors also discuss the idea that positive relationships with parents may cultivate self-esteem in children. I think we knew that, didn't we? Which leads to more positive relationships with peers and adolescents, which may further strengthen the self-esteem of emerging adults and so on into late adulthood. However, the field is still in need of integrated theory that it can explain whether relationships have such an accumulative effect across life, or whether certain relationships become particularly important at a certain age. We already know that teenage years are very important for social concept and positive effect in adulthood, and then later in adulthood is very important. All through life, amazing, positive, loving relationship definitely boost our self-esteem and fulfillment in life, and actually sometimes motivation for life. So when self-esteem or quality of social relationships is low, it can negatively affect the other factor and set up a downward spiral, making clinical interventions especially important to offset this potentially adverse development. Well, so these are the holidays. These are the times that we get together with our family members, with our friends. So these are the times that we can forgive whomever it is that we need to forgive, and forgive ourselves for anything that we said we were going to forget, and create positive relationships for people, and kind of like gather positive people around us, and maybe shed the ones that are really not that positive and are kind of like downers and bring us down. But more than anything, to keep that way of relating to ourselves, which is positive, and boost us up. So we'll be right back with our guest, Dr. Nasser Salehinia. Have you ever wished you could just wake up one day, reach across your nightstand, and hit the life reset button? Let's face it, the struggles and frustrations of everyday life leave millions of women and men around the globe yearning for a new way. And the new way is right here in Life Reset, the awareness integration path to create the life you want, by Dr. Foojan Zeine. You can get it now at Foojan.com or Amazon.com. Life Reset, the awareness integration path to create the life you want. You deserve it. Hello, I'm Dr. Foojan, and I have great news for you. I'm offering a special time-limited offer to anyone who's interested in online therapy or coaching sessions. I've developed the awareness integration model, which allows in only 12 weeks to raise your self-esteem and confidence and let go of your thoughts and emotions that produce depression and anxiety for you. So call today to schedule your online session and save $600. Call me today at 818-648-2140. That's 818-648-2140, or go to www.foojan.com. Again, I'm Dr. Foojan Zeine, and I am so excited to have Dr. Nasser Salehinia with us. Let me tell you a little bit about him. Dr. Nasser Salehinia is a cognitive neuroscience scholar and educator, and author of 2 books, You Lead You, The Neuroscience of Self-Mastery, and Leadership Intelligence, Leading with the Brain in Mind, soon to be published, and the developer of Internal Management System, an integrated method combining neuro and cognitive sciences, linguistics, systems thinking, and self-leadership to aid individuals, teams, and organizations reach their potential and objective. I'm so glad that you're with us. Welcome to my show.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course. How have you been doing going around the world?
Well, yes, I have been around the world a little bit. Great. It's good to be back home, and every place has its own taste and smell and flavor, and all of them are great. The nice thing is to know that one of the reasons I travel as much as I do, I'm trying to discover whether the hypothesis that the brain works the same regardless of culture and background is the same. And I'm finding out that it's really true. It doesn't matter where you go in the world, from the east to the west, our brains pretty much work the same way.
Yeah, we're human, huh? And we keep
A good way of putting it, yes.
our brain as a human being species, it works the same all over the place.
The mind is the one that gets us into trouble, but the brain does its own thing.
Yes. So in your book, I want to talk a little bit about your book, You Lead You, and then after that, you know, kind of tell people, give a teaser of what the next book will be.
Yes.
But when we're talking about you leading you, you also talk about mastery and how to master the game. And I'm positive that you're also talking about how to be a master of your mind and be a kind of like have a self-mastery. Can you talk a little bit about that? Why it's important, and what is it that it's important?
Right, of course. Mastery is, we can look at it in two ways. Mastery is, in one way, knowing what you want in life and finding out what your strengths are, so that when you move in the direction of realizing what you want, you know what you have and what you need, so that we are not expanding a lot of energy in the areas where we do not have the skills. And when we realize which skills we do not have, then we go get it. That's the process of mastery. Self-mastery is having that awareness that it is what I want, it is what I don't have, so that I'm aware of my strengths and my shortcomings, and what do I need to do to leap over those by gaining those skills, so that I can lead the kind of life that I want.
I'm also assuming, based on what I read, and I've spoken with you before, the part of the self-mastery is also to know what different parts of you, not only like emotional part, different parts of you that might be kind of like dissociated at one point and separated, but are constantly in action, requesting, needing, wanting, and all of that are there. And then for you to be able to manage all of them and manage your emotions. So there's also emotional regulation within the self-mastery, on top of you know, finding your needs and desires and everything else, right?
I would say, right on. I would say the core of mastery is that ability for self-regulation. And what does that mean? Is that first, for us to understand that that our thoughts are there to serve us rather than us being a server to our thoughts. What does that mean? That means that every thought that goes through our mind not necessarily is true or factual. However, majority of human beings, they pretty much go along with every thought that comes along.
Right.
Now, when we look at really what the nature of the thought is basically electrochemical activity with the signals that enters our brain with our five senses that very quickly turns into what we call thoughts, where in actuality is nothing but meaningless electrochemical activity.
And we give a lot of meaning.
We give it, so that's what the mind, yes, of course, that's what the mind does. The mind immediately gives it a meaning. And when we look at, excuse me, the essence of the meanings that we give to everything, bottom line, it comes down to good and bad. If you look at all of our judgments about ourselves, about others, about the world, and so on, even look at the kind of movies that we see, look at the essence of movies and music that we listen to, is all about good and bad that is termed in different language. So when those thoughts, those signals enter the brain, and we call it thoughts, very, very quickly they're turned into emotions by two sections of our brain above our ears that are called the amygdala, and they turn those thought signals into emotions. And then those emotions become the core of how we make decisions. And it is based on those decisions that our behavior is shaped, and it's based on our behavior that we get results in what we do in everyday life. And then we create a loop, a self-feeding loop. Our behavior and the results that we create tells us what kind of a thoughts we should have because of those behaviors. And this sort of a circle goes over and over and over again. So self-mastery, as you correctly put it, is about regulating those emotions. What does that mean? At the core, the brain is a negatively biased brain. That means the amygdala was basically, maybe we should back up a little bit and look at how the brain came about. The first part of the brain, the reptilian brain, what we call, is about 250 million years old. Then as the development of the brain went forward, we have the midbrain, which is where all emotions are and basically where the amygdala comes from, about 150 million years old. Then we have the latest development of the brain, which is prefrontal cortex, which is the very top of the brain that we see as those basically jello-like structures. That is only 3 million years old. And that is the area where we do our thinking, where we do our planning, where we do our future orientation, where we do our logic, and so on and so forth. Now, when the amygdala, which is constantly active, looking for signs of danger or potential danger around us, constantly looks for it and constantly attracts that kind of information, which is why we call the brain being negativity biased. What does it do? The very first thing that it does, if we are not able to regulate our emotions, it cuts off our connection to the prefrontal cortex. And it does it for a very good reason. If I'm standing in front of, if I'm crossing a street and a car is coming at me, the amygdala doesn't want me to think about whether this car is going to hit me or not. Does not want me to waste any time analyzing what is going to happen here. It cuts off my thinking process, so to speak, my logical process. Instead takes that blood, sends it to my legs or sends it to my arms in case I need to fight something off, so that I can get myself out of the dangerous way. Now, the brain has another really interesting capability, and that is that it does not know the difference between fact and fiction. So if I were to ask you that, imagine for a second that you're squeezing or biting into a very tart lemon.
Yeah, stop it. I already got it.
So exactly. So what happens is that all the saliva comes in, the brain doesn't know the difference. So imagine every little thing that we tell ourselves, the brain does not know the difference between fact or fiction to the brain.
Still, the data has to come in, and then somehow when the data comes in throughout, I guess, 5 senses, 6 senses.
Yes.
When the data comes in, there's still some sort of an analyzation that happens about where the data is. Is it dangerous? Is it not? And then it seems like there's every part of us, all the brains at the same time are somehow assessing between these two things. Is it pain or pleasure? Is it danger or pleasure? And then it works with the meaning kind of making machine in the prefrontal cortex and meaning, making some meaning out of it, right? So I'm hearing that the reptilian brain immediately figures out the survival base of whether it's pain or pleasure, danger or pleasure. Then the emotion comes up, which is still telling us, should we go forward and it's safe to go forward, or it's danger and I should go away. And then the frontal cortex gets in and puts some, serious meaning on top of that.
Yes.
And from there, we kind of like analyze and then do all of our stories and everything else around it. Is that what I'm understanding?
Absolutely. And it all really depends on the intensity of the emotion. And it also depends on what kind of memory I have stored in my memory system, in my hippocampus. If I have a memory system that says that if a car gets closer than a certain feet to me, I am definitely in an imminent danger, the analyzing doesn't come in anymore. However, if that car is about 500 feet or 1,000 feet away, it still gives me a time to sort of think about, well, can I do something? Can I back up? Can I go forward? What do I do here? Really, this is what you started this conversation with. This is where emotional regulation comes from. Emotional regulation really means having the awareness about what my emotions are and being able to question them. Am I really in imminent danger? As I'm sitting in a movie theater and every part of me is seeing these sort of horrible pictures and so on and so forth, I'm sweating and I'm shaking and on and on and on. Am I in danger, or am I basically watching something that I can separate myself from it? And that brings us back to the whole idea, am I the person who has these thoughts, or am I the thoughts who has this person?
Say that again.
So if every thought that goes through my mind, I believe those thoughts, I'd have no personhood anymore. I am my thoughts.
Got it.
If every emotion that moves through me basically directs what I do and the kind of decisions I make, I have no personhood anymore. I am my emotions. So, and when you look at all the Eastern practices in terms of meditation, is basically the ability to move ourselves one step back from the thoughts and becoming an observer of thoughts so that we do not become a slave to them. So mastery is, the core of mastery is really this, to be able to use our thoughts to our benefit in moving to the direction that we want to go to, rather than being enslaved to our thoughts and being yanked by it in every direction that the thoughts and unregulated emotions take us.
So, and the difference between the self-mastery and when we say like controlling a part of us, it's that the mastery, it's not about controlling, it's about knowing, becoming aware, looking at what is, and then choosing the component that works from it and working through it versus attempting to control a part of us.
Exactly. Self-mastery and control have one thing in common, and that is in both instances, it is we are expressing a desire to have things go our way. However, where they separate drastically from one another is that control is often based on fear, where mastery is based on clarity of which direction I want to go and making moves and making thoughts and basically moving in the direction of where I want to go out of desire rather than out of fear. Mm-hmm. And basically what happens in our relationships, as you well know, the brain has basic needs. The hierarchy of needs of brain are survival. The brain, first and foremost, wants to have us survive first physically and then emotionally. Once that's taken care of, then it's really important for the brain to connect to other people. And in that connection, what it wants is that we feel we are being liked, we are being respected, we are doing what we need to do, and most importantly, we are included. And if we sort of go back to the 250 million year old brain and the 150 million year old brain, is when the first humans basically came about, they realized that without connection to one another, they cannot survive they cannot survive the life they were living. You know, I go hunt on my own, but by the time I come back, another animal has eaten my family. So what do? I make friends with the next tribe, and we divide the labor of saying, when I'm gone, you take care of my family, and instead of for what you have done, then I bring food for all of us. So the second need is our need to connect. The third need is our need to thrive, to progress. That basically means that I want to know that I'm successful in what I do. I can accomplish what I set out to do. And that's really where our differentiation with other animals come in. A lion, when he or she gets hungry, they basically go eat something, not going to a restaurant, of course, in the wild. They go and take the prey and do whatever they do. And they only eat that amount that is necessary for them for that meal only. And they share the rest with whatever other animals are around. We humans are quite different than that. We have a full stomach. Our refrigerators are full of food. We have money in our bank accounts. We have a great car sitting in front. Yet we toss and turn most of the night wondering what's going to happen tomorrow, what's going to happen the day after. So
what is the next thing I need to create?
What is the next thing I need to create? And that desire really doesn't come out of a need. It comes from the desire that we want to go beyond ourselves. So once these three things are done for the brain, basically the three basic needs of the brain are accomplished, being our survival is taken care of, I am connected with other people, I have healthy relationships, and I'm somewhat thriving in life based on my own standards, the brain goes into a terms of consistency. Goes
And
into
what do you mean by consistency?
that means its variations in up and down becomes more balanced in its functioning.
So is that where the state of homeostasis would be?
Exactly. That's exactly where state of homeostasis comes in.
Okay.
Now, something interesting happens when the state of homeostasis comes in, because when it happens, the brain is in a balanced state. We like it for a while, but soon enough as humans, we get bored.
Absolutely.
Right. Okay. But imagine you go to a restaurant, you really like what they have there and all that stuff, and you go back again, and you go back again, and you go back again, and very soon you get bored and you want to have something else. So
yeah,
then
like, you want to struggle to make everything well. It's until you get to the place that's all is well, and then you're like, okay, all is well. Now, how can I create another chaos so that I can go off balance, so that I can go have the thrive again and create all of these needs to make it into balance again?
Exactly right. That's where this paradoxical nature of human beings comes in. That we thrive to create balance in our lives and get that sense of consistency, so to speak. And once we get there, we basically tip the pot over and we want to start all over again, right? Yeah, okay. So, and also, since the brain is negatively biased and our amygdala and our learning memories are closely connected, the humans are still learning best through pain and suffering. Mm-hmm. We don't learn that much from joy and love and laughter and so on and so forth.
No, it's like joy and laughter is the resting space, like the reward of the learning. But the
exactly
the suffering, and well, I don't know if it's the suffering, but there's a challenge. Like when you go through the challenge, there might be suffering, there might be things that are out of your control, and when they're out of your control, you have anxiety, you have all of those, and maybe we make it mean suffering, we call it, because it's kind of like part of those resting type of emotions that we call it pain and suffering. And it seems like when we've gone through that, then the joy is the reward, or the rest, the calmness is kind of like the reward of this challenge. But you can't stay in this reward too long. We can't stay in the challenge too long. And that seems like this constantly has to become a balance for us to maintain and kind of like survive.
Yes, it's that your choice of word is quite interesting. For someone who has some ability of regulating their emotions and has built some sense of resiliency meaning when I fall down, I get back up again and move forward again, life becomes a challenge. For people who do not have that sense of resiliency nor the ability to emotional regulation, everything that happens in life is pain and suffering.
That's true.
Right? So.
But it's like the paradigm you put it in. It's the way that you are making meaning out of it, and because obviously, if you've survived it, you've had some resiliency, whether you see it or not, whether you recognize it or not. Even if you're suffering through pain, you're still being pretty resilient through pain.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
If you're not dead yet, believe me, you're resilient.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you're waking up and going through something. Trust me, you're resilient.
Well, having that awareness itself is quite important.
Yeah.
That if I'm not dead yet, if I have survived it up to this point, that means I have some degree of resiliency. But believe me, in people that I work with and you work with, the whole sense of resilience is not something that is commonly accepted nor acknowledged. The smallest change in that level of consistency, which, by the way, we get bored with, it becomes a huge challenge to people.
And I think that rightly so. I've been there myself, that when I'm in pain, of anxiety, anger, all of fear, all of those, we're trying to always run away from it. So
yes.
We don't necessarily put it in an angle that it's normal and it's supposed to be here and you're supposed to learn out of it. They're just uncomfortable feelings. So the desire to run away from them, to come out of them, does not allow us necessarily to look at them and put a positive angle into it, which is putting the resiliency into it. And many times we look at it as after we go through the pain and suffering and we hit the calmness space, then we look back and it's like, okay,
yes,
I was
yes.
resilient. But while we're going through it, we don't necessarily experience the resiliency. We're just
Exactly.
experiencing survival, like I'm surviving this thing.
And this whole experience becomes a lot more intense when there is no space between us and our thoughts.
Right.
When we believe we are our thoughts, everything that the head tells us that this is happening to you and that is happening to you, and basically goes and pulls all the memories associated with unpleasant experiences and creates a movie out of it for us. And we believe everything that the movie and the producer of that movie is telling us, then the pain and suffering becomes a lot more intense.
Yes.
And the resiliency becomes a lot less capable.
So when the emotions show up and you're overwhelmed by them, let's talk about some techniques that you can calm down, because in order to balance them, and one is higher and the other one is lower, there's a way, like you're talking about detaching from the source of the emotion or the thoughts that are there, both of them, emotion and the thoughts that are out there. To, instead of being completely engrossed with them, so for us to become the emotion or the thought, but for us to be kind of like separated from it in order to see, oh, this is my thought, this is my emotion, and then be able to kind of rise above it and then look at, okay, through this thought, this is, what is it I intend and what kind of a behavior I want to create. There's a way to come out and up. And how would you, and I know that you, in your book, you talk about it, how do you suggest for our audience to, and our listeners to be able to recognize, first of all, that they're completely attached, they're completely engrossed in whether their thought or emotion, and then what are some of the ways to disconnect or disattach, not disconnect, but disattach from being it versus watching it and experiencing it.
Yes. In the book, also, as you correctly mentioned, I go in depth into that. Matter of fact, this is core of the book. And it talks about how when we do not have a distance between ourselves and our thoughts, how we create 4 separate mind states that basically deepen that level of suffering and pain for us. But for the sake of this conversation, one of the really powerful techniques and very easily at hand for all of us is questioning whether the thought or emotion that is going through us is true or not. You know, when I work with people and I tell them that, they say, well, yeah, the thought may not be, but I'm feeling it. We put so much emphasis on our feelings to be true just because we are feeling it. Well, no, but you need to understand where they come from. And this is really where understanding how one's brain functions reduces the weight that we carry on our shoulders, and looking at ourselves from in a psychological framework rather than a neurobiological framework. That the brain does what it does. And it is the way I am interacting with my brain functioning that is taking me to these deep ends of emotion and thoughts and basically unhappiness. So that's one way of really questioning it. Is this thought true? Am I in danger right now? Is what you're telling me really about me or about something that is completely unrelated to me, but being expressed by you? So inquiry is one of them. Another powerful way to do it is going beyond, doing something in life that's beyond you, having a sense of contribution in life.
Making life bigger than you, not just
making life bigger than you, and basically doing something that's more than, that focuses on more than your own self-interest, that involves giving, receiving, whatever that means to you. To somebody is about running a good company where people are happy. To somebody is about going around and distributing food and working in a food line. For another person is about being a good parent. Going beyond your own self-interest, because when we are focused on our self-interest, there is a specific network in the brain called the default mode network that becomes highly active. And once that network becomes active, we basically and quickly lose our distance with our thoughts. because every thought becomes every thought that goes through us is interpreted that is about me. And since the brain has that negativity bias, it gets mixed. Therefore, all the thoughts that are negative about me comes up. Our sense of self-protection, survival basically comes under question and scrutiny. And once that happens, we are gone with those thoughts and emotions for a while to go. So we become the judge and the prosecutor and the victim and so on and so forth. And the movie keeps running while we miss our exit on the freeway. So one powerful way is about having a purpose in life, having a meaningful purpose in life that's not about you, involves you, but is not specifically about you. Is about doing something in the world that satisfies you in one way or another. A very powerful way of not having this sort of a intense view onto yourself all the time.
So really, when you say get out of your head, literally get out of your head and get out there, kind of being out there and looking at not only here, but being out here, where it's other people and your relatedness with others and looking at the bigger picture versus just being engrossed in this bubble that is in your head constantly and in your body. It's also as I'm hearing you, like if you have values out there, you have purpose out there, you pick a bigger game, which is beyond you, that you could really play out there. There's also this, the concept of letting go or detaching from the thought and the emotion. There's also, did you have techniques that teach you how to get out of them? Like,
yes,
watch them, observe them, a way of mindfulness, and in particular techniques that you do, which you take them to a mindfulness that's in the book that I'm asking for our listeners and audience to actually go and check out the book, because it has systematically all of these type of exercises that teach you how to get off of the space.
yes,
and go out, and then
yes. Yes, in the book, since you use the word mindfulness, and mindfulness is often thought about the position of sitting down and closing your eyes and counting your breath or counting numbers. Those are not the techniques that I use, even though I've been a mindfulness practitioner for many years myself. I use brain-based techniques that, excuse me, that have been tested, have resulted in basically reducing the activity of that network that we just talked about, the default mode network, to reduce its activity so that our focus on the self becomes less, and you become basically, as you very correctly put it, you get out of your head and you get into your life. And when you look at this process, we can come back to our earlier conversation that when I have a purpose that's larger than I, basically my connection to other people gets stronger. And as you recall, that's the second purpose of the mind, to the brain, to basically have stronger connections. When my connections are stronger, my sense of survival is more protected, because I know if something happens to me, I have meaningful relationships about me that will come to my aid. When you put those two things together, I'm automatically and without much effort, I'm accomplishing something in my life. So whichever way you take it, you put yourself within this circle that basically feeds the brain in what the way it wants to observe the world and functions, feeds the mind in terms of quieting it, and brings you satisfaction and basically a direction and purpose in life. And that is when if we want to take this idea of self-mastery to its very core, is about mastering our thoughts, our emotions, and using them to lead ourselves towards a purposeful life.
Which you claim what the purpose is, and when we claim what the value system is. So we'll intend it, we'll claim it, we'll set it up, and then watch the thought and the behavior to be moving toward it and creating those results.
And the awareness comes and the mastery comes in that if we are, we all experience that on a daily basis, that if you take your attention off the road for a few seconds, you might veer a little bit to the right, might veer a little bit to the left. The safety mechanisms immediately come in, and you sort of, by 1 degree, a couple of degrees, move yourself in one way or another so that you're back on track again.
Right.
We are living in a world where the headwind is pretty strong. So we need to constantly watch how the headwind sort of takes us off direction and put ourselves back into it.
Well, it truly does, because I think that we're also engrossed with data coming at us consistently. Like, you don't have time to for even milliseconds without a data. So you're either working, or you're on a computer, or you're watching TV, or you're on social media. And I've noticed that even when you're watching TV or you're watching the screen, you can't even, there's not even one stale photo or one stale image anymore. There has to be movement from all around, as if like, they're kind of like flooding your sensory concept. Like, you really have to hold in order to pay attention. And then we're looking at how come we're getting so much ADHD for the kids, because it's like, really, there's so many movement around that you have to pay attention in one thing and keep letting go of everything that is there. But there's a part of us is catching up all of these data constantly. So we're getting overwhelmed with data constantly. And I can see how much it really matters for us to have the skills of focusing in and kind of, looking at what is the thought, what is the emotion, what are the things that are going, what is my intention, what is it that's going on? Because what's out there could take me anywhere. And I'm sure you've noticed that,
Yes.
And people who are listening to us and watching this, they can see, oh, I was on the internet, and then I was like, oh, it was 6 hours later, and it just took me, because it can.
I am going to offer a different wording for what you said, this information coming at us. And the wording I'm going to offer is that we are opening the gates to draw this information in. As I'm sitting down, I really have the choice of putting my phone down and sitting quietly for a few moments, but no, I don't. I mean, when I go to a doctor's office, when I'm on a bus, when I'm on a plane, I hardly see anybody being able to put something down and contemplating for a few moments. We are constantly busying ourselves. So, but we have accepted this notion that has been taught to us in the Western culture many, many years ago, that I think, therefore I am. The Cartesian idea, we have really taken that in. Therefore, many people are very concerned and afraid, really afraid of that quietness that comes, that if I don't have a thought, that means I must be dead somehow. So
I think that sometimes it's the quietness that gets them like, I must be dead, or I get bored because there's nothing that I can get entertained by. But I also think that our brain, because of the reptilian part that is trying to make us always watch for something that might happen in danger, that there's always then a what if, and the negativity shows up. So people, because they don't want to deal with the negativity that shows up in their head, such as anxiety, that, with all the what if things happens outside, then they numb themselves also with entertaining themselves with a lot of the information and data that comes in. Because it's much more entertaining for me to go to, a social media and look at everybody's life from a side and look at videos and different types, versus kind of going in and first listening to all of the anxiety producing thoughts that are showing up and looking at all the negativity that I can see out there.
yes,
The other side of it is that it takes the practice of this, detaching from our thoughts and emotions, to look at the quietness that is there. And then you're also suggesting that the quietness is a place that allows us then to go into a self-mastery, because you come into a neutral place, and from that neutral place you can actually look at everything. But if you're completely engrossed in one of them, it's, you know, you can't be managing the rest of the stuff from that place. You got to come up first and then manage them. And coming up first, it takes that kind of a quietness to come up and detach from it.
Yes, I want to make sure that we have this clarity in this conversation, that we are not at the mercy of our brains. Even though it's 250 million years old, we are not at the mercy of it.
Yeah.
Just the fact that we have a system that is a survival mechanism that looks for negative information constantly, that doesn't mean we are at the mercy of it. So it comes to how, whether we react to that information that the brain produces or we act based on it. And if you look at from a neurobiological perspective, as we pay more attention to our fears, to our concerns, to our anxieties, and so on and so forth, besides the psychological factor that produces anxiety and chronic anxiety and depression and so on, also the excuse me, the size of amygdala itself increases. So, for example, that's what PTSD is all about. Post-traumatic stress syndrome is about the fact that someone has one experience of trauma or dramatic experiences, and they pay so much attention to that, that biologically the size of the amygdala grows and grows and grows. And more larger that size gets, more negative information it pulls in, because its activity becomes more intense. But again, I want to make sure that people know that we are not at the mercy of the functioning of our brain. That's where mastery and that regulation comes in.
So I have 1 minute for you.
Okay.
I know it's a tall order, but I want you in 1 minute also tell people about leadership intelligence that is coming through. Leading with the Brain in Mind, which is the next book that's coming up, Leadership Intelligence. 1 minute. Tell all
1 minute. Very good. Okay, leadership, basically, I'm redefining leadership of saying we all are leaders. Whenever you make a decision, any kind of decision, including getting up to go to your refrigerator, get a drink, you are leading. Human beings cannot be alive and remain alive without leading. Therefore, this whole idea of leader as a hero that sits on top of a throne somewhere is an old idea. Leadership is about being a collaborator, being able to bring people together, influence them in such a way that increases their well-being and moves all of us in a direction that increases the well-being of all involved. So that's one part of the book. Then I'm redefining intelligence and saying intelligence is not about having IQ. Intelligence is basically about having IQ, having emotional intelligence, but most importantly, what brings all of them together and sort of ties them together and creates cohesiveness out of it is having intelligence in your values. Are my values intelligent? Are they cohesive in the way I talk, I act, whatever I do in my life? Because we make those decisions, we make our decisions based on our values. And you and I both have been in front of people who sound really great. However, we move back and we come, so there is something not there, because values come across a lot clearer than anything else. So the book really gets into that and then talks about how brain and mind function sort of wrap themselves around that, and then offers ways and methods for people to be able to come to bring themselves to a living, intelligent being.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for being on my show. Everyone, Dr. Nasser Salehinia, please get his book, You Lead You, which you can find at youleadyou.net.
That's correct.
.net, yeah, youleadyou.net, and look for Leadership Intelligence also, as it's going to show up. And thank you so much. And I know that I also want to tell everybody Happy New Year. It's going to be an amazing year for all of you, because I know, because you're listening to the show, and you're going to make it an amazing year. So Happy New Year, everyone. And for just create an amazing life for yourself and everyone around you.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yes, absolutely. See you and talk to you in 2020. Bye-bye.
That's right. Exactly. Thank you. Bye-bye.
The Inner Voice Show is a dialogue between the host and the listeners about their relationship.
This is 1490 AM KMET, Banning, Beaumont, Redlands, and Palm Springs. News, talk, sports.
Hero for stopping a gunman.
The whole thing lasted only a few seconds. 2 shots.